Well, as we begin to close out the year 2017, what were some of the biggest economic development deals of the year? What city or region stood out? And what do we need to do as a state? What do we need to do differently next year to land more jobs and investment? For some answers, let's bring in national site selection firm KSM Location Advisors CEO Tim Cook and President Katie Culp. And welcome back.
Thanks, Gary.
As always, hard to believe 2017 is winding to a close very rapidly. This has been an interesting year, to be sure. As you look at big successes, Katie, what do you point to in 2017?
Oh gosh, it's some of the biggest successes I think have a lot to do with the tech sector. You've got Emphasis, Levimentum, one of our clients, but it's not just a single deal. I mean, and certainly Salesforce is known for its large presence in this industry. I think it's the accumulation of all of these tech firms and showing that Indianapolis is really a contender nationally to secure them.
And in terms of the activity, certainly there's been a lot here in central Indiana, but it's not been limited to here. There have been successes around the state.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so promising too, because we're getting different pockets, and tech firms are not necessarily tethered just to, say, downtown Indianapolis. The suburbs, you know, Fishers has certainly done a lot, but even outside of the central Indiana region, Fort Wayne and some of the other areas.
Yeah, I think the biggest story has been the governor's economic development agenda. If you look back to his State of the State, two things he talked about were infrastructure and workforce. He put a lot of money in both of those. He did a great job working with the legislature this year, kind of staying away from social issues and just trying to block and tackle and get those kinds of things done. And if you look at the IDC, which is the state agency that does economic development deals, they had a record year. That was his whole team in place that did that. Jim Schellinger, Elaine Beadle, Chris Cotterill. I think if you add those two together, he had a monster year, and he deserves a lot of the credit for it.
The state has put it continues to put a big premium on regional economic development and trying to drive, talent attraction and those types of things. As you look at specific successes around the state, talk about some of what you're seeing. Tim, how about up in Fort Wayne and Northeast Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, Fort Wayne, if you go up there, it's incredible the amount of money they've invested downtown, and you can see it. There's just a vibrancy there. Our parent company recently relocated to the Ash Building downtown, and you've got a leadership there in the mayor and at both the city and county council that are very engaged. They've made economic development a priority there, and it's just really exciting what they've been able to accomplish.
I mean, don't you think it's really the result of a strategic plan and an intentional plan?
Yeah, it hasn't happened by happenstance. It's been very intentional.
Yeah. One of the big, huge projects, infrastructure projects in the country, the Ohio River Bridges project in southeast Indiana, and I know there's been a lot of activity in that part of the state as well.
Again, I mean, it's a similarity, it's a different strategy, but it's having that intention. And so they put together infrastructure plans, they found the funding, and by improving the bridges and the access to Jeffersonville and to New Albany, you're really seeing a lot of economic development as a result. I think there's a lot moving from Kentucky into southern Indiana, but they're also, I mean, Louisville, the greater Louisville area competed for the Amazon project. They submitted a bid. So it's exciting to see other parts of this. I mean, you could spend a whole day talking about central Indiana and all the strengths, but it's nice to see other parts of the state flourish.
Yeah, in Jeffersonville, we've got a huge Amazon distribution center. In terms of the Amazon, the second headquarters project is getting so much attention, obviously, around the country. Where do you see that going? Is it, again, multiple cities in Indiana put forth a bid. Here in central Indiana, a big effort to get a bid out there. Where do you see that going?
Well, I think we both agree that probably sometime yet this year, we're hopeful that the list of, I think it was between 200 and 300 submissions gets narrowed down and whittled down a little bit. I think I'm very optimistic that Indianapolis will be on that list. I think it's very telling if we are. It's a sign that even if we don't win it, which I think it's an uphill battle to do that, it shows that we're a player in the field and we're a contender. Conversely, if we're not, I think that speaks as well.
Yeah, I think as they whittle down the list, I'm going to look to see the cities that stay on the list. And if you see a Minneapolis or a Pittsburgh, I think we'll see in Indianapolis. If it's nothing but the big cities like New York or Boston, that will tell you that those mid-market cities probably really didn't have a chance.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if like-sized cities are not on the list, it's not as negative as it would be if we had sister cities of peer size who were there and we did not make it.
Talk about challenges facing economic development this year and certainly going forward to 2018. Everyone talks about talent, whether it's companies talking about it, communities talking about it, the state, and those types of things. Where are we in talent? How serious an issue is it? And do you think the state and others are doing enough to get their arms around it?
I think Indiana has made a big focus on talent in the last several years, and they've made a lot of inroads. The thing is, all of the states that we're competing against, they've made it a priority as well. So we can't rest on our laurels. We have to really identify, when we talk about workforce, what are we trying to address, what are we trying to correct or improve. But I think we've got a governor and a legislature that said this is a big deal. Governor Holcomb has said 2 years in a row now that it's one of his main priorities, and so I think the focus is where it should be.
Yeah, and Katie, as you look, you mentioned this, but workforce being, from a legislative standpoint, something that's got to be a key issue going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the governor's identified it. I think we'll see a lot of resources being put towards it. My hope is just that those resources are used wisely. We have got to collaborate on this issue. The strain of having a lack of workforce hits every sector of the economy. You know, it's got retail, certainly. The distribution centers are dying for work, but it's the tech centers too. You know, it's these large tech employers can't find coders and other types of workers. And, you know, it's something that, and not to mention skilled trades, you know, there's a real push, and I'm excited about it, to see efforts to get younger generations interested in that, because manufacturing will they'll suffer in the future.
And that's been one of the big issues lately. We have high-paying jobs, and then we have those minimum wage jobs, but what's happening to that middle sector, and a lot of those have been eliminated by automation. So I think Indianapolis and a lot of cities are really focused on that in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. Is that going to continue to decay, that sector of the workforce?
Yeah. How about perception from an economic development standpoint? You talk to people, get around the country. What's in Indiana's perception overall? Do you see it changing? A lot of tech coming in now, and a lot of conversation around the country that Indianapolis, in particular, Indiana in general, becoming a tech hub.
We do a lot of traveling around the country, and I think for coastal businesses, we're kind of in flyover country. You know, they get us confused with Idaho or Iowa.
One of the I states.
Yeah, right, somewhere in that area. But I think that once anybody that's studied or understands it a little bit, Indiana stands out in the Midwest as a really competitive business climate. It's attractive to industries. I think when you drill down to the type of workforce we have, it's very appealing. I think the challenge, tends to be we've gotten national attention for being pretty socially conservative, and that's a deterrent to some of these tech companies. So we need to continue to work through that and focus on being a vibrant, welcoming place for businesses and their employees.
Yeah, a lot of our clients that look at Indianapolis for the first time, they're very impressed by it, and when they locate here, they're like, this is an incredible city. You saw that with Salesforce. So I think the more that we can kind of spread the word that what's happening here is something that's unique and something that is attractive to corporations, I think we're going to just continue to have more success.
Yeah, you mentioned workforce, and certainly I'm sure that's one thing. But as you look, as we kind of wind down here, at what Indiana needs to do to continue to be able to attract companies, workforce obviously being anything else as a state we really need to do, a shortcoming maybe that you see companies around as they look at Indiana? Yeah,
I think legislatively we have got to do something to make access to capital easier for software companies, for startups. There's a couple of ways we do it. One, we've got a venture capital tax credit that we either need to make transferable or refundable, because that will be impetus. But if you look at our ranking compared to other states, Indy really lags, which is kind of an outlier as strong as we are in tech.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that, and just the vibrancy issue and how we're perceived nationally, that we've got a lot of cool things going on, and I think a lot of times you got to get someone here to see that, and then they're hooked.
Right. As we wrap up the Amazon, the HQ2, I guess it is. When is that list? What's the time?
It's the big question there.
I think a lot of people have thought that we'll hear in first quarter who the winner is, and maybe a little down of list from there. Kind of my thoughts are, I think it feels like Boston to me. They had a really impressive proposal, and they've been on the short list from day one, but I think it's anybody's guess.
All right, well, lots happened certainly in 2017, lots to look forward to in 2018 as well. We look forward to talking with you both about it. Tim Cook, Katie Culp, KSM Location Advisors, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
All right. And I'll be right back after this.